I am Sharon Holmes. Welcome to the She Shines podcast, where we are empowering you to embrace every facet of who you are, helping you to develop a beautiful balance in life, and encouraging women everywhere to shine. You can follow the She Shines podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to your favorite podcasts. Get in on the conversation. Join the sisterhood at facebook.com/groups/She Shines podcast. So get ready. The She Shines podcast starts right now. So today I'm going to dive right into our topic because I want to have as much talking time as possible on this particular topic. So most of you know that I'm pursuing my master's degree in marriage and family counseling. And for most of us, for most of the people who are interested in careers in mental health, there is generally a reason why. And most of the time, I will tell you when you ask me my reason why about two young ladies. One's name was Shakaiki Asfi. The other was Portia Foster. These are two of the most beautiful young ladies you would ever want to meet. And they are definitely gone too soon. Shakaiki was 16 years old when she was shot in broad daylight. Portia Foster was 15 years old when she was snuffed out, both by accident during Chicago's gun violence. And that is the catalyst. That really is truly the catalyst that really made me just get up and go for it, make things happen, and get in the program. But the real deal as to why mental health is important to me started many, many years before that. So my introduction to mental illness really came through an experience within my family. I had a brother named Stanley Davis. He was just a terrific person, just kind. He was very mild-mannered like my dad. He was the most considerate person you'd ever want to meet, a true gentleman. And he was always other-centered. He always took care of his younger siblings and was just a great guy, very dedicated to the church. He was like a regular at church, not one of the CME members. He was there more than Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. He was there every week. In fact, he served as a deacon in our church. And I kind of like to describe him like this. He was just the ultimate big brother. And when I tell this story, I have to issue my disclaimer that this is just my perspective of what happened. And it really feels strange kind of to go back and dive back into it because I really didn't understand at the time all that was happening. It's really even now all kind of a blur. But back when I was around 20-ish, something very strange happened within my family. All I know is that one day my brother just wasn't okay. Family speculated that something had happened at his job and there was an equipment malfunction, and some of the family speculated that the equipment malfunction scared him to the point where he just was not quite right after that. Somebody else speculated that maybe the medication that they gave him to help with a headache or something afterward might have been some foul play. I don't know any of that. Again, I was about 20 years old, had none of that on my mind, but I do know that whatever happened that day changed my brother forever. Again, really did not understand what was going on. We started to notice some strange behaviors. Even after he was, home from being checked out for the accident at work, my brother would pace nonstop, just back and forward through the entire house. He was very mild-mannered anyway, and my family generally has a little quiet feel, maybe except for me, of course. But he would not hold conversations, and even if he did, they tended to be very hard to follow. And I'll never forget what happened one particular day. I noticed that he was watching television like it was a very interesting program on. And when I looked at it, it was really what we called back in the day snow. I know that is a foreign concept to you all now because television does not go off the air now. But when I was a kid, it would go off the air. And we would call the white fuzzy screen, we'd call that snow. And he was watching that like it was a program, like not moving, not saying anything. And these were all, I knew they were bizarre behaviors, but didn't really know what they meant. And I know my mom, as you can imagine, she was like really distraught. She was really praying and crying out to God, to heal her son. And my brother was not married at the time. And so my mom, of course, assumed the responsibility for him, and she was taking him to the doctor's offices and having him checked out. And I remember we were referred to a psychiatrist, and at 20 years old, I had my driver's license for 1 year. And I remember on Saturdays was the day that I would drive my mom and my brother to a clinic within the neighborhood where we would allow him to have visits with psychiatrists or psychologists on staff. Never knew what happened in that room. I wanted to go in that room. I wanted to know what is going on because, again, he couldn't communicate with us to tell us what was going on. But that was my introduction. And I remember at first, when things first started to go a little awry, he was still pretty functional, and he would still go to church with us and all of that. But we were always nervous because we wouldn't know what he was going to say or if it was going to make sense. And then we weren't sure if we should tell other people that there's something else going on here. And we weren't sure what they would think. And then on top of all of that, we were trying to figure out how to reconcile our faith with what was happening in our home because, it didn't really make sense. And in the church that I grew up in, all illnesses, headaches, stomach aches, all of that was a spirit that we just needed to pray out. And we were praying, and it was not happening the way we thought it should happen. And so that, of course, for me at least, caused questions in faith. Not that I ever did not believe in God, but why, Lord, is this happening to my family? Or what's really going on here? What are we missing? And just did not know how to deal with any of that. But that was my introduction to mental health and what it meant to not have mental health. And now that I'm learning more, I wanted to revisit this topic. And you know what? I said, not just for myself, not just for my own personal healing, but for all of the families that, like my family, are suffering in silence. So today I am ripping the lid all the way off the can of worms. Yeah. It's been unspoken until today. I am finally ready, really, to speak out on what often goes unspoken in Black families. Now, you should know by now that I always have a ram in the bush, and today is no different. So let me introduce you to Miss Tenisha Phillips. Hey, Tenisha.
Hey, how you doing? Hello.
Tenisha is a clinical mental health therapist at Norwegian American Hospital. Say that 3 times fast. On Chicago's West Side. She's also an adjunct professor at National Louis University. And all the while, she is pursuing her PhD in counselor education and supervision at Capella University. And if that wasn't enough already, she's also the owner and CEO of Phillips Sims LLC. Hey, Tenisha, tell us a little bit more about yourself, girl.
Oh my goodness, like that's pretty much you've summed it up.
Did we hit you? Did we hit most of it?
Yes, if not all of it. It's really a lot, but I mean, I couldn't ask for anything else. I couldn't ask for anything more. I'm busy with the things that I actually, intended to be busy with. So it's going to continue to take time, continue on with this journey. And once everything is all said and done, Phillips Sims LLC will be my biggest work. It'll be my only work. Plan for the brand to be global. So that is really the end all be all of this work. So I'm currently working on independent licensure right now, and again, PhD and those sorts of things. So once all of that is fully done, God willing, we're looking at TED, we're looking at Essence Fest.
Listen, I am hearing intentional.
Yes.
I'm hearing intentional growth, not just being busy with just stuff, but being busy intentionally living out a life that will make a difference in other people's lives.
Yes, absolutely. This is bigger than me. I intend for this to be my legacy. It is my legacy. It is my baby. It will be my legacy. And this work will continue on long after I'm gone.
Good.
So that is, essentially the goal. I look to my community, to my tribe, if you will, and look at, their children and their children's children. So as this grows, it will be a family business. So when those kids grow up, they have, for lack of a better term, a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. It's not just about, no shade to McDonald's, no shade to Burger King. Those jobs as a kid are very, very important. Mm-hmm. But this will be able to give them skills in high school and in college to put them not behind the race, but equally at the race.
Yeah, at least level the playing floor.
Exactly. They will have the office skills. They will have the business skills. They will have, because we plan to have every aspect that you could think of, from real estate to mental health to medical care to fitness, anything that you could think of within the mental health and wellness and social justice realm. Mm-hmm. If they want to touch on those pieces within their lifetime, they will be able to have access to those entities.
So you hear that, squad? I hope you guys are listening. This is more than just about having, a job with no boss.
Right.
It's really about doing work that matters. And I'm so glad that she is not afraid of hard work, because we got a hard topic today.
Absolutely.
Just really, people don't talk about mental health. They just don't. We're getting a little bit better, and I'm hoping that in the profession we're actually kind of moving that needle a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I noticed that within the family, the conversations still aren't being had, and, being fully 100% transparent within my own family. We never had a point where we all came together, sat down, and said, hey, guys, this is what's going on, and this is what this disease looks like. My brother was diagnosed with schizophrenia. They had absolutely no idea what that was. But we never had a point where we sat down and we said, this is it, and this is what this disease looks like. These are the things that you should be expecting. So my question to you, kind of just to get us off and running, is, what's the best way to begin to address mental health within the family system?
I would say, in all honesty, just being aware that it's there. Being aware that this too can happen to you, and it's not beyond us. It's mm-hmm. not above us or anything like that. Even going back in history, we come from what's called a collectivist society, mm-hmm. or a collectivist culture. What I mean. And so being a person of color, if you look anywhere, India, China, in the African-American community, in the Hispanic community, mental health looks very different from what it does in the white community or mm-hmm. Caucasian community, what have you. If you think about where and how this was studied, we weren't in the forefront of that.
It was really pretty financially stable white males. That was the beginning. That's history. Mm-hmm. That was the beginning of psychology and therapy. Mm-hmm. That was the clientele. And so most of the studies, what she's referring to is that most of the studies that were done were based on this population, basically middle-class white males. Mm-hmm. Even Caucasian females were not so much factored into the equation mm-hmm. when we first started doing studies about mm-hmm. mental health. But now we have people like Tenisha who are shifting that paradigm. And we are understanding that there is a difference in the cultural aspects that you would see mm-hmm. within white culture and black culture or minority culture. Mm-hmm. And those are things that are really important to address, because family means something totally different in one ethnicity than it might mean in a different one.
Absolutely. And I have to preface before, it's actually super dope that I'm actually able to have this conversation with you, being someone who is in the field as well. So we're able to vibe and able to conversate in that particular dynamic.
I love it.
So I think that is so awesome. But yes, you're absolutely right. So going back to your initial question, is that just simply being aware that this too can happen to us, and the acceptance of that. We've had people in our family all day long. We just used to send them down south.
Yeah.
We used to put them in the attic and,
Or
they
back
just
room.
touched.
Back
right.
room.
Don't bring them outside or anything like that. It was kind of like, we're going to take care of them, even though we kind of ashamed of them, but we still, we got to take care of them instead of, letting them understand that you are you. I tell my patients all the time, this is not something that you just woke up and said, hey, I think that this is going to happen to me. No, that's not how that worked. This is something that you have. It's not who you are. You're not defined by this. We have athletes, we have actresses and actors who have mental health disorders and still go on to lead pretty healthy and vibrant lives. So the best way that we can help them is to get in front of this situation, get educated about this situation. And that's one of the main things about it as well when it comes to family is being educated about what's happening and about what's going on. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've heard, many times, when somebody's depressed, you're just sad. Mm-hmm. And I talk about this, all the time. Being depressed is not just sad.
No, it's not. Totally different.
Exactly. Totally different. It's part of the symptoms, yes. Mm-hmm. But when you think about everything surrounding that, the lack of self-efficacy, the lack of self-care, the lack of motivation that all comes with that, or again, as you're saying, like you had mentioned your brother before in just staring at the TV, especially with schizophrenia, they're having auditory hallucinations. So yes, they may be staring at that TV, but something is talking to them.
What
they're
that really
seeing.
means for the rest of my squad is they're hearing things.
Yes, right.
Look, we just girls.
Right. That's exactly what
They're
it is.
hearing things.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. They are hearing things. And sometimes, more often than not, they're responding as well. So it's like, who are you talking to? They're talking to the 1 or 3 or 4 people that are talking
hearing inside their heads.
Absolutely. So, again, just to turn around back into that is, again, just being aware and not being afraid to have that conversation because this is your family. Mm-hmm. If you can't talk to your family, who can you talk to?
I hear you when you say that, but in so many families, there are some topics that we'll talk about all day. We will talk about Black Lives Matter and we'll talk about President Trump. And then when we notice that, our sister, our brother, our cousin, our niece is not quite acting right or something seems to be a little off, we're afraid to talk about, and rightly so. I understand that we don't want to cause a big rift. These are our loved ones. We love them. We don't want to hurt their feelings by saying, hey, is everything okay? Because I've been noticing that you haven't been quite yourself lately. And we may not have the words, now I'm beginning to learn the words, but I didn't have that when I was 20 years old. I just knew that something was wrong and there was a lot of secrets. Nobody really understood. And so I didn't even have the tools to have that conversation. I didn't have the words. And you mentioned something earlier, and let's just go ahead. We've already broken the lid off of it. There is a factor of shame that is involved because when you think about mental health, especially in families, because people are not always educated, and because some mental health disorders also have biological aspects to them, then here's the thing. Well, if my brother is mentally ill, are people going to be looking at me now, waiting for me to develop the same illness? And so now not only is there shame attached to the fact that my brother is not quite acting right, but then there's also the piece of, well, what is this going to make other people think about me? And I'm 20 and I want a boyfriend. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So even those things play a part in, and how families handle things. You think?
Yeah, absolutely. And being young, I'd probably say even for being an older person as well, it's like, these things are hard, but we got to deal with them. It's like even having those conversations, and I'm perhaps, I might be going off topic a little bit here, but it's like talking about racism. You know, we want to have the conversation amongst each other, amongst Black people when it comes to racism. But when it comes to actually talking to white people and actually other peoples of color about what that looks like, whether that's systemic or institutionalized or just simple racism and prejudice in general, we want to have the conversation, but we want to have at the conversation.
When it's comfortable for us.
When it's comfortable, exactly, and actually getting real with it. And so, like you said, you got to tear that lid off. You got to tear that lid off and deal with it because this person is the one that's going through this. And they're going through this illness. So, I mean, everybody has their right to feel what they want to feel and to have those concerns about that as well. But those are things, again, that we have to deal with, that we have to confront, that we have to say, hey, you know, you may not know the words, but something is wrong. So even, you know, this is your roadie, this is your family member. Hey, cousin. Hey, brother. You know, what's going on? How you feeling? Just simply, how are you feeling? You know, we don't have to get into this like, hey, you know, I saw you speaking into things that wasn't there. What's going on with that? You know, like, you know, that would make anybody on the defense, you know? But just simply, if someone is not really understanding how to approach that, just simply saying, hey, you know, I'm a little concerned because we would do it any other time. You know, if you were going through something, if, you know, you had a breakup, you lost your job or whatever the case may be, something that is just an adjustment in your life because that plays a part in mental health as well.
Yes.
So that's part of understanding, you know, part of what mental health really is in that aspect too. You know, going through those things just by simply saying, hey, you know, can we talk?
And, you know, the other part of that is being brave enough to reach out if it's happening to you. You know, sometimes I talk to my husband, you know, even whatever it is, if it's something physical that's going on with me, if I'm overly stressed, I'm in the midst of my final semester of classes. And as happy as I am about that, it is quite stressful, actually quite a bit more stressful than any other semester has been. And I was able to sit down with my husband and say, hey, you know, babe, I'm really feeling tense about this. I'm really feeling stressed. There's a lot of assignments that I need to do. And hey, I'm noticing that I'm a little more forgetful, you know, and I need you to help me watch to make sure that this is just me having a lot on my mind and that it has nothing to do with the thyroid issues that I have. So we have to have conversations like that based on the fact that I don't have a thyroid anymore. And that affects other parts of your body. It affects your mental ability to remember. You can have brain fog is how I explain it. And so I have those conversations with him. And sometimes it is really difficult when you think about having to do that with your own family. But let me tell you, girl, if you're out there and you're listening and you're not quite feeling right, find someone, find a family member, find a friend. If you can't do that, call Tenisha's office.
Yes.
And say, hey, you know, I've got something going on here. And it doesn't mean that you have a mental disorder just because you're experiencing differences or changes or things like that. But just being able to have someone, an ally, someone that you can grab hands with that can walk through something like that with you, I think is huge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you touching on that is, I cannot express how important that is. You know, when we think of mental health, I mean, again, that's just not knowing, you know. When we think of mental health, we think of the bipolar disorders, we think of the depression, we think of schizophrenia. But mental health is just that, mental health. Whether that is stress, you going through a divorce, you going through a breakup, you having class, these are things that we are going through that create stress, that create issues, your physical issues. If you, which I've recently found out that if you are diabetic and you insulin intake, you not doing that right is going to be a cause of depression. You know, so when you have certain physical issues and you're not treating those right, those also contribute to mental health issues as well. You know, simple things like self-care. Not taking showers or, you know, again, having depression or depressive symptoms. You know, something as simple as having people in your life that you need to remove. that's all mental health as well.
And a hush could fall over the microphones right now.
Yes, that's self-care. That's self-care, So when we think about self-care, we again think about just combing my hair, getting my hair done.
I gotta go get my nails done. And I gotta go to the spa and all of these complicated, costly things that we call taking care of ourselves.
Exactly. And that's one small piece of it. That is one small piece of it. Self-care is making sure you're getting enough sleep. Again, making sure that you are removing things that are causing you stress, that are causing you harm. People who are just parasites, if you will, just energy, blood suckers, just want to suck the energy out of you, want to suck the life out of you. Those things are a part of your self-care as well. So it's levels to this.
Honey, let me just stop for a moment and just ask the Father Almighty to forgive me, because I do know I have missed more than my share of sleep, and some of the things that I need to give up, maybe I haven't done so, to preserve my own peace. And that's all a part of it. So, I already know, and I knew that this would happen. We have like 5 minutes left, and we got to squeeze. We got to squeeze like a whole gallon into a pint, unless I can convince her to stick around with me.
You got me. You got me for as long as you need me.
But here's what I like to do in the last 5 minutes. So in the last 5 minutes, you said something that I think was absolutely key, was that I won't even attempt to word it the way that you did. You all just rewind and hear what she said. But she said something to the effect of mental health being mental wellness, and the idea of actually looking at other parts of our lives. And so here's my question for the last 5 minutes. What can we do within our families to promote mental wellness?
That's a good question. I would probably say simply taking it as it comes. When there are things that are arise, I would probably say not even just waiting until it arises. We all know ain't nothing like summertime shy. When summertime comes around, you got things all around the city that you can do, whether that is just walking, being active, that is wellness. That is mental wellness. Going and even doing yoga. That's part of wellness. That's part of centering yourself, grounding yourself, getting your mind in perspective, and those sorts of things. If even in family meetings sometimes, or just simply having some time to check in. Calling your sister, calling your brother, calling your mom. Just say, you know what? I just want to check on you today. There are sometimes very few and far in between, just because school just takes over my life.
It's just a period of time.
Absolutely. But I check in, me and my family, my sisters and my aunt, we have a group chat where when we come together and we have a conversation with each other, there may be some times where they haven't heard from me or I haven't heard from them. One of us will simply say, hey, checking in. How's everybody feeling? How's everybody doing? Something as simple as that.
That's
is
huge.
Promoting family wellness.
Yeah. And especially I'm going to take it a step further. We know that we do the check-ins with our family. We have a family prayer thread. And so if there's something going on with me, I can throw it on the prayer thread, and in an instant, I've got 10 people responding, I'm praying, So I definitely get that. But then within the home where you have parents and you have children, sometimes, and I'll get on my soapbox about this in another episode, but we spend so much time nurturing our iPhones that we forget to actually nurture the people that are in the same room with us. And so even just having a time where you're disconnected from the electronics and you allow yourself to connect with your family so that you can notice when something is not going well with you. You need to know what your children's norms are. So when there might be an instance of bullying or whatever, or where they may be spending a little too much time in their room, maybe exhibiting some signs of depression, you'll be able to see that because you are connected and engaged with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, just when you see those things, just simply checking in. hey, how you doing? Or you know what, like you said, taking that time out, let's take a break. You got a certain amount of minutes, because there are some people who put timers on their children's phones. They put timers on those iPads and those Android pads and stuff like that to say, hey, you only got a certain amount of minutes on this pad.
Yep.
After that, then,
Family time.
It's family time.
Absolutely.
It's family time.
That's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now listen, I already knew that the time was going to fly by. And I have to say a very big thank you to you, Tenisha, for coming and talking to me today. And I am going to have to end this particular episode and try to, again, convince her to stick around with me. But
I'm here.
Before I let you go, I want you to tell our listeners, tell our girls how they can connect with you, how they can follow you. Let them know how to reach you.
Okay, so I have an office outside of the hospital, 10540 Southwestern Avenue, Suite 506. I am there. I facilitate individual, group, family, couples therapy. Mm-hmm. So if you are interested at all in having a session, I also give free consultations, about a 10-minute consultation, 10 or 15-minute consultation for free. You can also reach me at phillipsimswellness@gmail.com. Check out our website, phillipsims.com. On Facebook, we are Phillip Sims LLC /Phillip Sims Wellness. And just add it to Instagram literally like last night. So bear with me. I'm still getting that whole thing together. It is Phillip Sims LLC on Instagram.
Listen, I know y'all didn't write all that down. So what we're gonna do?
Because it was a lot.
We're gonna drop that in the notes, so you can look in the description of the show, and we'll have all of her information so that you'll be able to reach out and connect with her. Because again, for me, this was really something special to be able to go back and to discuss something very personal to me. And I hope that it has been good for you to hear what she's had to say today about mental wellness within the family. So I want you to keep your eye out on our social media pages, because again, we're going to continue our conversation a bit. And I want you to know exactly when and how you can hear the rest of our conversation. No one wants to deal with this. No one wants to deal with mental illness within the family. But I would rather have this information and not need it than need it and not have it. They say hindsight is 20/20, but the problem with hindsight is that it does not come early enough to make a difference for you. But guess what? It can make a difference for everybody who's walking behind you. And I hope that's what we've been able to do today. So until next time, Shine Squad, don't let things go unspoken, because silence isn't always golden. You have been listening to the She Shines podcast, where we are empowering you to embrace every facet of who you are, helping you to develop a beautiful balance in life, and encouraging women everywhere to shine. If you are a woman who shines and you want to see someone else shine too, join the sisterhood at facebook.com/groups/She Shines podcast, and you can share the shine. To get instant updates on our podcast, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, or Spotify. I'm your host, Sharon Holmes. Until next time, shine on.